Hello, dear explorers. We are here today talking about the gate or the gene key number 28, one that we both have in our profile, and one that we both have in channel with 38 gene key. So we'll go a bit into the theoretical part of it, and then we'll explore how it played in our lives. Each of us have it in a different place in our sequence, and I'm curious how it played for you. We talked about it a bit, but it will be interesting to even hear it now. So I will start with presenting the general information about 28, and if you have it in your profile, I'm very curious where you have it in your profile and if it resonates, the story we say resonates with you or not, or how you felt it. So what is very specific about this gene key is the road from the shadow of lack of purpose. It's always looking for a purpose, and sometimes it goes in activities that have no purpose just because there's that quest for finding meaning. So what's very specific is this searching for purpose, and while searching for purpose, experiencing life in the totality of it. It's like the dark night of the soul, or the dark night that goes in a quest to find a purpose, and while being in this quest, finds out all kind of experiences that make life be total. Um, it's an individual gate, and I would like to start sharing from this point that it's an individual gate, and in the Vedic astrology, it's called the star of individuality. So, how does it play for you? As your sun is here, your life work is here.
Yeah, for me, it was always sort of a pursuit to do interesting and new things, things that are not normally that are not societally accepted half the time as well. I found myself, well, really subconsciously, without even knowing it, getting myself into experiences and trying things that looking back on it, actually are borderline illegal. Some of them actually were illegal. But for me, uh, it just seemed very natural because for me, it was always a pursuit of doing something that's against the normal wave of how society is going. Um, for many of the viewers, I don't know if any of you may feel the same, but when you feel like the trend of everyone is going in a certain direction, you have a certain momentum, how society is going, how society wants you to behave, what society wants you to do, what society doesn't want you to do. For me, I just found that for one, it got very boring very quickly. So I always just sought out to do exciting, dangerous, illegal, just crazy, esoteric things, which I can't. Some of them I can't really mention, but what was interesting about it is that for me, it was a pursuit of individuality, and that's really what it came about. I did it not because uh, I really wanted to, oh, I really just want to try this experience. I wanted to try it because I wanted to have the aura of people saying, oh, yeah, Oliver did that. He's crazy, kind of thing. So that's really what drove me. It's like you may have this inkling to just, I don't want to be like everyone else. And this theme happens recurringly for me in many gene keys. I keep coming back to it. It's really the pursuit of being different. My biggest fear is really being the same and not being unique. Non-uniqueness is by far my biggest fear, and I think some people may resonate with that. I'm curious to find out if everyone else has like this fear, especially as acutely as I do.
Thank you for
Yeah,
sharing from your sun,
yeah,
radiant sun perspective. What's interesting is that our profiles are mirroring, we are opposites. So his sun is my earth and vice versa. I would, before I share my story and how I see the 28, I would like to add some general information regarding what you said yes, it is related to individuality 28, and it's an individual gate in an individual channel. And many times it has this, as I said, quest, the quest to find purpose, and to find purpose by exploring the self and exploring who am I and what am I here to do. So it's one of the symbols of the rebels. Many of you maybe have Jinki 8, that is also a rebel, but it's a rebel that finds the light within, the diamond of the self. 28 is just the rebel that fights for what is typically his, the individual side. So I find this uh, rebelling very different. So 28, it's a rebel that goes on a quest to find to find the meaning of life, the meaning of the self, and so on. And the cause is very important here, because if 28 doesn't have a cause, doesn't have something to fight for, it just loses purpose. It just rebels again and again and again, as you said, looking for experiences that make us feel alive, but maybe that had no purpose other than exploring the individuality. My 28 is in the evolution, or for those who are into astrology, it's in the earth placement. And as I work as an astrologer, I find it very related to the Scorpio archetype. Scorpio likes the intensity of life and fuels with intensity. It's a kind of food for the Scorpio to get intensity in order to feel alive. And the first time I got in contact with this key, I was at the human design course. I didn't know I have it active in my chart. And I just heard the story of 28, and I know I had an immediate response. I just turned around and said, like, whoa, this feels like my story. This feels like my life. And for me, 28 was always about, and is about, feeling alive. We were exploring a bit yesterday how 28 plays in each other's life and in our lives. And for me, 28 is about being alive. It's about finding the risks to take in order to feel that something in me feels alive. It's a key in the spleen center. It's a key related to the joy of life, the intensity of life. Um, and I would like to mention here, it's also named the risk taker, the key of the game player or the risk taker. And what game does 28 play? It's the game of life. So I think both of us had very intense lives, and it feels like riding the game of of life, going in a quest for a meaning, and while being in this quest, living life. And totality, I guess the gift of totality is also related to experiencing what you experience and live totally what you live, just pouring yourself in experience, whether it's dark one or a light one. And darkness, I wrote a bit in the article I will post about the concept of darkness, because it's one of the keys related to darkness. And it was funny because yesterday you said, like, oh, I don't feel it very dark, the 28. But darkness in the sense that it might go and experience stuff that for other people may be too intense or illegal or not to be tried. But people with 28 go there and live life totally, good or bad.
Yeah, the totality of it and the dark side of the totality is really real. For me, oftentimes I don't really uh, fathom and really contemplate the true significance of some of the dark aspects of some of the things that I've lived. And it wasn't sometimes until years later, or sometimes a few weeks later, that I realized I some of the things I was saying. Right, I would be preaching the sort of experience that I tried to a coworker, and it's, sometimes it's not really the right avenue, but it's like when you live something totally, um, and you dive on the dark side of it, and maybe society looks at it as a taboo or something that you shouldn't do. But when you like really live it really it removes the dark side of it, because if you live it totally, there's really nothing all that taboo about it. There's really nothing all that odd about it, like when you really really experience it. So that may lead you to believe that it's okay to just rant about it and tell everyone about it and assume that everyone around you is on your level, because they're really not. And that may come as a shock, because if you do something totally, and you really live it, when you start writing about it or talking about it or making videos about it, or just sharing your experience, you may actually alienate a lot of people. And they may not tell you to your face that they're being alienated, but it's a really intense, usually they're really intense experiences. And people that don't have that intensity really get scared. They can actually get scared by you. Just like, what is this guy doing? Like, why is he doing it? Like, why? It can be really jarring to someone that's not ready. So you wanna you wanna be very careful how you share this side of you, this intense experience, this totality, because again, the darkness is very real, and it can really scare people away.
Uh, I wanted to add something. I mainly I don't use the term level. I wanted to explain a bit level, not in the sense that people are some higher and some lower. I think in this context, level we meant the part of intensity, that sometimes this type of intensity that is here in the root center and in the spleen center is maybe different than the intensity of, I don't know, the emotional center or the head center. And we both have a defined root and spleen, and it's an intense energy that just forces you to live in an adrenalinic way. So this is what we meant by, maybe some people get scared of it, because especially if you have the whole channel like we do, 2838, gets very intense about living life fully and living life with purpose. And many times it is said that if a person with this channel enters a room, it by the presence, just by the aura, it stirs the other people to live experiences more intensely. So if you have an
Yeah.
undefined root or spleen, it might feel too much, it might feel overwhelmed.
And it can put people off as well, because you go on and talk about that stuff, and it makes them feel like they're living a very uninteresting, boring life compared to you. So you have to be very careful. You don't want to make them feel like, oh, I'm doing all this, I'm doing all that, and like, what are you doing with your life, kind of thing, because it's you don't want to put that on someone, especially if they're not expecting it.
Mhm.
One thing I will say is, and this is something I felt, is a person that may have this gate, you may be a type of person that also is not really afraid of bodily injury as well. I don't know if this is true for everyone, but this is definitely true for me. There's a lack of fear that you may associate with, that you may have probably already kind of known about yourself. But this sort of lack of fear, this juxtaposition between what you may feel and what you may want to experience, and the gap in fear and anticipation that you may have from someone that doesn't have this, can be quite dramatic. I've experienced this with a few of my friends who are, in various adventures, let's call them, and the the tactile feeling of danger has a different effect on different people. So for someone with this key, the pursuit for the individuality and the experience and the intensity, may imply that you don't have a certain level of fear that someone else may. Um, and again, the fear is also something that shouldn't be discounted. So yeah, it's you really want to be careful, not only who you sort of communicate this kind of life to, but who you experience it with either, because you may really put a lot of people in some really uncomfortable situations.
I think you you pointed nicely the fear, because being in the spleen center is about fear. So usually 28 feels fear, but the way it approaches fear is head on. So it goes and deals with the fear and deals with the shadow side. One of the name of these keys is associated with the key is embracing the dark side, or fighting with the demons. And fear can be one of the demons. One of the symbols is the sword, so it goes with a lot of
The
fuel and power to just fight with fear. So it may have fear, but it fights with it. What I find interesting is to see if you have 28 in a defined root spleen center or undefined, because when it's in a defined center, it also has a very interesting gut feeling response. So I guess we get that feeling, that gut feeling, if something is really dangerous or so and so dangerous.
But the fear is actually what makes it fun. The fear and the unknown, because you will feel fear, but that won't stop you from doing it. So think of the fear as like the spice, right? The fear will be there, but it won't stop you most likely, especially if someone has like a similar chart to mine, I think, with a defined spleen. The fear is something that's never a deal breaker. The fear is what makes the activity.
Okay.
And that's really what I was trying to get at earlier. It's like the intensity and the fear of bodily injury, which is what I think stops a lot of people from trying certain things. If you can get past, especially the fear of bodily injury, then you can really, it kind of opens your mind a little bit to try like a lot of crazy things that life has to offer.
But what I meant looking at the spleen center is that it acts very differently. So people that have defined spleen and defined root, even if they go in a risky situation, there is a gut response that tells them like, you can try it because it's still safe. But sometimes people have an open spleen and open root, and there might be this huge gap between trying something risky and really risking too much. But anyway, it's the gate of risk taking, and it has a lot of energy. And I wanted to conclude with mentioning just a bit about the other side of the channel. So 28 is a part, and 38 is the other part of this channel. So 28, 38 make the channel of the fighter. So when this risk-taking energy and this crazy energy of the spleen that wants to be alive goes with the 38, it's the channel for fighting for a higher cause. It's that energy invested, that drive, and that force to fight for something higher, and to fight for and not against. I think that is something we we felt very profoundly in our lives. As long as that energy goes fighting against everything and always quarreling, it's just losing of a higher purpose. When you fight for a higher cause, then all that perseverance and all that totality and risk taking go to a higher cause.
Yeah, fighting against something, it's always left a bad feeling in my mouth. Fighting against something is really exhausting, and you feel like it's not very true to your heart when you just fight against something. Like, for example, political partisan alliances, like fighting, oh, I don't like them or I don't like that group of people. That kind of fighting is draining. That's not what humans are put on this earth to do. But fighting for something you believe in is really a lot more sustainable.
Yes.
Because fighting against is just so draining. Don't.
And the connection with the body that you said, I think it's very relevant here, and I would like to wrap up with this. If you have this channel in your chart or these activations, the connection with the body is important, because having the channel of the fighter means you like to fight. Not necessarily physical, but the body needs that connection with the energy to be ready to fight for something. So the body is important, that intensity you feel in the body, like the body moving. And especially in your case, I saw that the connection with the body. So it's like the spiritual warrior that is ready for a higher fight, but the spiritual warrior also takes care of the body and has that intensity to feel rooted in his own body. I feel that important.
Yeah. If you don't feel good in your body, you won't have the mental and the spiritual energy to fight anything.
Yeah, and it can go, if the body is not relaxed and calm and it's not in shape, this channel wants to fight. So it becomes quarrelsome, or it becomes aggressive or angry because it needs to fight. So it depends where that energy of fighting goes, to what cause. So thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. And we are curious where this channel is in your chart. Like, what activations make your channel be? Is it your Venus, your Mars, your Earth? What activations you have here in 28 and 38? Thank you.